So we think of it as this pyramid. So right at the top is like our kids, and obviously what works for the kids is topmost.
Yeah.
The next level of the pyramid is not compromising one person's career for the other. And the third layer is really trying to be in the same location as much as we can, because you're only a family, when you're together. And, there were 3 times in my career that I think I consciously took a break and went and learned something. So one was of course the Chevening Scholarship, and every time you take one of these breaks, my most recent one again was in Cambridge, where I took the opportunity to learn again about my domain in technology. But the most important thing is that when you therefore come back from these breaks, you're not coming back apologetically. You're not saying, I took this break and therefore I didn't work. You're coming back saying, I'm coming back as the 2.0 version of myself. I'm refreshed, I'm re-energized, I have great new perspectives that I think I can, really share.
That's the game changer.
When I came back to the workplace after, having 2 children, I thought I was the best management expert in the whole world because the perspective you have,
so many things,
right? I mean, we've all been there, right? I mean, it gives you the perspective that nothing else can, I think, at that stage. I liked to go into areas where I don't have perfect knowledge, right? But which looks fascinating to me, and where I know that, I may not be fully qualified for this job right now, right? I may not know everything that there is to know, but I know that I will put in the hard work required to learn and to adapt myself and make sure that I am able to do that job as well as I can, right? As women, I think we need to really value the work that we have done and the track record that we have. So many women, and I think you mentioned this earlier, Anjali, when they talk about their work experience, they come across as apologetic. It's just something that I did on the side. Oh, I just did this because I was put into that role, or somebody gave me this opportunity. No, this happened.
I went there, went out there,
right.
did and made it happen.
Right.
Welcome to another episode of People Connect's Women at Work, bringing stories of successful corporate women leaders to you. Brought to you in partnership with our luxury partner Mercedes-Benz Landmark Cars and our styling partner Vero Moda.
Haven't we all heard so many stories of women who give up their careers for a variety of reasons, be it childbirth, family, moving with the spouse, etc., because sometimes quitting does seem to be the easiest option. But what if we can have 2 successful careers in one household? Let's meet our guest today, who's broken a lot of myths and stereotypes about careers, including being a non-engineer in the tech world. Let's meet today Kamalika Gupta Perez, ex-MD and CEO of ServiceNow.
Kamalika, welcome!
Thank you.
Hi.
Great.
Nice to see you. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here today.
So excited to hear that. We have Kamalika Gupta Perez, ex-MD and CEO of ServiceNow. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, let's go for a drive.
Hey. So, Kamalika,
Yes.
the next part of our segment, which is the main part, it's been a bit confusing as to where to start with you because there's so many places where we can start. Okay,
Right.
but we thought we'll start at the very beginning. What's the story behind your undergrad and what you're doing right now?
Yeah, that's a great place to start. And the story is very interesting because I'm actually an economics graduate. And when I was an undergrad, if you had told me this is where my career will end up, I would have said, you're smoking something, right? So I had all these dreams of, pursuing a career in economics, of really, making a career in the field. And then, as we say, career is what happens while you're busy making other plans. And I ended up in a career in technology. And, my husband and I, we always joke about it because he started off as an engineer and then he went into marketing. So you could say we kind of, sort of moved in diagonally different directions. Both of us, of course, finding our way to leadership eventually, but following a rather, different paths to reach there. So yeah, so I am the economics grad who ended up in the technological field.
Breaking stereotypes from the word go.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. I didn't set out to do it, but I guess that's how it
That's how it
transpired. Yeah.
Okay, Kamalika, we were talking about how we can make intentional careers. You were talking about how your career in tech came about.
Yeah.
So, while we are on careers, it's one thing to build a career mindfully and intentionally as one person, but you're also like this dual super career power couple, if I may use that cliched term. Now, tell us a bit more about, because the decisions get more complex and all that we have to do to move ahead gets a lot more
Even travel
nuanced.
schedules, I'm sure.
Yeah.
True.
So how have you managed all of that over the years, and it changes over so many different life stages?
Yeah, so again, that's a very interesting question. And so, it's not like, again, like I said, it's not like we had some great master plan, but we had certain things that we were very clear about. And one of them was that we didn't want any person's career to suffer because of the other person's career movement, right? And that's something that we intrinsically believed in and wanted to, see play out as we progressed in our careers. Now, of course, it's easier said than done because, we have, for example, his job moved abroad, we moved across countries, we, came back to India. All of these needed career changes, job movements, and trying to find out situations that made it work for us, right? And I think the one thing that I would say really, worked for us is really going that extra mile, the hustle, the effort involved in reaching out to people, having a conversation, exploring all options, and just making sure that we were trying to safeguard our careers as much as possible. So, for example, we moved to Thailand, and my husband's job moved to Thailand. But even before I moved to Thailand, I had already spoken to a few people there, had already sussed out what the possibilities for a job could be, had a few preliminary conversations, and I even took a break actually, before I started working in Thailand. But it was kind of lined up because of the planning and the hustle that we did to land that job. And the same thing when we moved to Turkey. Again, Turkey was a big unknown. I had absolutely no idea of what it would be like to work in Istanbul. I didn't know of anybody who had worked there. But it was just that reaching out to people, getting a little more knowledge every time, trying to figure out the connections and really trying to make it work. So we made it work like that on both of our international moves and also then eventually coming back to India.
But isn't it a lot of pressure just to make sure that the whole ecosystem, you have to get up, move it, plant it somewhere else, and then stay that course for maybe 2-3 years, 4 years of a career there, and then make a move to another country. So it's like you're continuously in that cycle.
Yeah, you're right, and it does introduce a lot of uncertainty. But I think I was lucky because when I was there, I also made it fairly clear that I didn't want my career to suffer just because I was there for a 2-year or a 3-year period. That let's say the progression that would have come to me naturally would come in the course of that period of time, whatever it was, because otherwise it wasn't fair to me as a professional. And I was blessed with managers and mentors who actually saw the logic of that argument. So we were very lucky when we landed back in India finally that we had actually managed to keep both our careers moving across different locations and not to have really taken a compromise one way or the other. So we think of it as this pyramid. So right at the top is like our kids, and obviously what works for the kids is topmost.
Yeah.
The next level of the pyramid is not compromising one person's career for the other. And the third layer is really trying to be in the same location as much as we can, because you're only a family, when you're together, right?
Absolutely.
So, and there's only one time when, Prashant had to move out of the country and I wasn't able to follow him because the kids were close to their passing out from high school. That we weren't together, but as much as possible we've tried to make that work for us.
Kamolika, just going back to your Thailand stint, one thing caught my eye. You said you also took a break, right?
Yeah.
The phenomenon of a break, particularly a woman taking a break, comes with its own set of biases and taboos. But here you are. You're super successful. You've navigated multiple geographies and you've had dual careers along with Prashant, and you've also taken a break. So just tell us a bit more about that. What did you do during that break? What was your thought process?
Yeah, so that's again a very interesting question. So when I went to Thailand, if I can just take that example, and I've taken these breaks 2 or 3 times in my career, but the move to Thailand coincided with my son being born just before we left the country. And then after I went to Thailand and after I had kind of settled down over there, I got accepted into the Chevening program, which runs these leadership courses out of the London School of Economics. So it's a chance to be at the LSE for 1 term and really go through that program, which is supposed to be a really flagship program run by the British Council and the British Foreign Office. So it was overwhelming, honestly, because here I was, second time mum, but still with a small child in a new country, trying to set up home and trying to figure things out on that front. And then I get this chance to go and learn at the LSE for a term. And the natural thinking is to say, hey, let's not do this now. There's only so many things that I can handle. And then parallelly, of course, continuing the conversations with IBM to say, I've left India and come here, and I want to start working with you guys over here in Thailand. And we made a conscious decision that we would actually solve for the situation rather than make choices about leaving something or the other out. Right? So the answer was to say, if we wanted to do all of this, what would it actually involve, right?
So you can have it all.
You can at least try to solve for it all, right? And I think
Wow, well said.
all the smarts that we as professional women have, I think
Yeah.
we owe it to ourselves to actually go that extra mile and then try and solve for it, right? So for
It is
example,
the intent. I think what's more important is the intent to say,
yes,
can I solve for many parts of this puzzle
yes, yes.
and try and keep moving.
Absolutely. So the idea is to try and find the answer and not the first step to say, hey, I'm going to compromise by, not doing this time around, or I'm going to compromise by not joining work this year. I think the tendency for us to say, hey, I'm just going to compromise and I'm just going to give this wonderful opportunity up, that shouldn't come too quickly. The first option should always be, let's find a
Because
solution.
quitting is always the easy option.
Yeah, it is easy. Yeah, and I think you're doing a disservice to your own career and the work that you've done and your own track record when you do that.
One thing is, and firstly, late congratulations on the Shivning Scholarship, because
Thank
that's
you.
like a huge deal. It's not
Yeah.
something small. You just slipped it into the conversation like one more item. But also, something that caught my eye and has always caught my eye about you, Kamolika, is your focus on learning, right? And not something that we see somehow in mid-career professionals too much, particularly amongst
Right.
women. And of course, the reasons are all understandable. There's just so much more to do. Learning becomes like third or fourth priority and so on.
Yeah.
But how did you keep that? How do you still keep that going, where you have learning as one of the priorities in your mind? You spoke about this brilliant Pramit. I think somewhere in there, learning also figures that, you've just kept it as a table stakes and you've not told us about, but just tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. So again, there were 3 times in my career that I think I consciously took a break and went and learned something. So one was, of course, the Chevening Scholarship, amazing opportunity to be at the LSE for 3 months, but also through them, visit the WTO, the EU, the UN, the OECD, and all of those, the global organizations, which you get a fantastic perspective of how they work. The second time was when I took a break in 2018 to actually learn about artificial intelligence at MIT.
Oh,
And
wow.
again, this was a time when artificial intelligence still hadn't burst into the public consciousness as it has right now. But, you kind of could see the momentum that it was gaining. And for me, it was a question of curiosity. I really wanted to know, what was, what this thing was all about, right? Intellectual curiosity more than anything else. But I've always found that, when you're working in any field, to be able to understand what's happening, the larger change, happening in society or in your domain. And, let's face it, all sectors of industry are getting disrupted very, very fast these days, right? And just to be on the top of that, if you want to grow yourself as a leader, is tremendously important, right? So learning for its own sake, but learning in your domain so that, it becomes something that adds to you as a leader, I think is really, really important. And every time you take one of these breaks, my most recent one again was in Cambridge, where I took the opportunity to learn again about my domain in technology. But the most important thing is that when you therefore come back from these breaks, you're not coming back apologetically. You're not saying, I took this break and therefore I didn't work. You're coming back saying, I am coming back as the 2.0 version of myself. I'm refreshed, I'm re-energized, I have great new perspectives that I think I can, really
That's
share.
the game changer.
Yeah.
The way you position yourself after the break, what you say, even when you're in an interview situation. And Kavita, we've seen so many women that we've interviewed over the years that don't be apologetic about the break. What have you done during the break? And sometimes I think, even motherhood gives us so many aspects to ourselves which we didn't even know. And that just adds to the person that you kind of keep becoming.
Absolutely. Couldn't
Of
have
course,
said it
the
better.
learning piece to stay relevant, because like you said, the workplace is changing so fast. The demands are so many today. So how do you keep pace with all of that?
No, I couldn't have said it better myself, Anjali, because especially when you said motherhood, right? When I came back to the workplace after, having 2 children, I thought I was the best management expert in the whole world because the perspective you
Juggling
have,
so many things,
right?
you become
I
a
mean, we've
pro.
all been there, right? I mean, it gives you the perspective that nothing else can, I think, at that stage.
I think, sometimes people say monotasking, but if you're a mother, the way you learn multitasking is not funny.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Artificial intelligence in
Yes.
2018,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there was a very textbook phenomenon then, Kamal.
Right.
And you were like at least 6 years ahead of the cycle.
Yeah, probably.
So is that like something that you consciously do, seek out innovation? Because, you know, again, this
Yeah.
is if we talk about career conversations, and
Yeah.
career conversations apply to everybody, not just to women or to men, to
Yeah.
everybody who is intentional, mindful about their careers. How do we keep ourselves relevant in a world that is changing so fast?
Mm.
So is that like a learned mindset that you have? Are you
Mm.
conscious about seeking innovation and learning about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, we were talking about this earlier when I was talking about my career choices, right?
Hmm.
And for me, it's always been about choosing the choice that is interesting and is going to teach
Hmm.
me something or a
Hmm.
fascinating new area than taking the choice that's safe,
Yeah.
and see, nothing against safe choices. People take them because they know how to do it. People take them because it's easy on work-life balance and trying to balance out your life. But to me, it's always been taking on that slightly uncomfortable choice that I may not know fully about, but it has something to teach me and to move really to an area where I can say that I will grow as an individual, right? In technology, and as you guys know, right, I mean, the pace of change has been very, very fast. There's been a lot of disruption, a lot of new things coming into the market. And my endeavor has always been to work at that leading edge of technology, right? Because you really get a feel of, like you said, 6 years ahead of time, what's going to hit the market, right? And that gives you a kind of power and a kind of foreknowledge that I think is very hard to beat.
Yeah.
So talking about innovation, talking about being in newer areas, I think it's absolutely imperative. You may not always get a job that very neatly slots you into an organization exactly where innovation is happening, but just staying on top of it, knowing what's coming and understanding the trends in the market and even where to move. Where will the momentum be 3 years down the line? I think it's really, really important to make that innovation a part of your DNA, if I can say so.
So, Kamalika,
Yeah.
wanted to step back to your Cambridge story for a minute, okay? Firstly, what were you doing at Cambridge? Because you didn't go with an idea of learning, but
That's
then I
right.
guess you saw some library and started learning, if I'm not
Right,
wrong.
right.
Just tell us about that.
Yeah, so Cambridge, actually, I went to, I accompanied my daughter because she was the one who was taking a job at Cambridge.
Wow.
She was joining there as a researcher, and I actually went to settle her in. But Kavita, Cambridge is such an inspirational place, and because my daughter was a staff of the university, we had leeway to go inside and explore the colleges, even in the off hours when visitors weren't strictly allowed. It's such an inspirational place because you look at this institution that's been there, for hundreds of years, right? But is still leading a lot of the, the thought on AI and technology and biotechnology where my daughter was working. And it was such a lesson in how institutions can reinvent themselves. And I think people as well, individuals too, and really reinvent themselves through the mode of learning, year on year, right? And that kind of spurred me to then go into learning a little bit more about my field, about technology, the newest advances that are coming in, crystal ball gazing, what can we tell about the future? Because I think when you're in an environment like that, it really spurs you to learn, beyond what you already know.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, but that leads me on to something else completely, because this is like rabbit hole full of gold. So, you have a daughter who's working at Cambridge.
Right.
So daughters and working mothers.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a daughter as well, and I feel like
Me too.
we become Anjali, you too.
Wonderful.
And we become kind of role models at home, right?
Yeah.
Because our daughters see us and then they're like, okay, that's the norm.
Yeah.
And that spurs more women to get into the workforce and be
Yes.
independent and do their own thing.
Indeed.
So just tell us a bit more about your daughter and her growing up with you across all these countries. What has she got from you? What have you learned from her?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, and I'm sure you guys will know all this. We are all mothers of daughters, and I think it's a wonderful experience, to have a child at home who is looking at you, as she's growing, as the person that they're primarily going to be inspired by in leading their lives and making their choices. And for her, growing up across cultures, I think she took something from each country that we were in, so
Yeah.
she still remembers, her friends in Thailand, what she learned, a few words of the language that she picked up. Then when we moved to Turkey, all the histories and the stories about Istanbul, she used to actually take people as a sort of a mini tour guide, when we were busy and take people out to visit the sites in Istanbul. And that sense of wonder, I think, kind of stayed with her and made her want to be a scientist when she grew up. But I think, as a mother, you're always conscious of, this thing that I mentioned, right? What is she learning from me?
Yeah.
Am I role modeling the right behavior?
Yeah.
And then somewhere down the line, it changes from the daughter looking to you, and trying to model themselves on you, to becoming really, your greatest cheerleader and your guide,
Wow.
I still remember there was one job that I was in two minds about taking up, right? Because I was with a large organization and I didn't know if the new role would actually give me what I was looking for. It was a smaller place. And I remember discussing this with her, and she said, Mom, at the end of the day, think about where you'll have the biggest impact.
Wow.
Where will you make the biggest impact on the people around you, right? And go into that position. And that's what I followed.
Simple, right? It's so
Yes.
simple. But
Yes.
just put your thoughts in perspective and said,
Yes.
okay, this is my next career move.
Yeah.
Adding to that, Kavita, because she's also a mother to a boy,
Yes.
and also
Oh,
I have an older
yes.
one who's a boy.
Right.
Sometimes I think, that will change the equation for the next generation.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not going to change so easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because for them also, they're seeing their mothers trying to manage it all, trying to
Yeah,
see
indeed.
Yeah.
how many things every day is a struggle in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how do you pick up those things and say, okay, and calling in the support when you need it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So I think
that's
that's
right.
going to be more impactful also that's why we will see more women in careers
Yes.
when that equation changes.
Yes.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
right. When
Absolutely.
our sons and daughters grow up seeing mom working, managing all of these things at home and at work, and they look at their mom with wide eyes saying, hey, my mom's a superwoman, right?
Yeah.
Not that I always appreciate that,
No, I don't want to
that
have
tag
eight
being
hands
used.
and
but-
that image of 8 hands
Yes.
and trying to do everything
Yes,
because
yes.
something will drop, whatever you
Correct.
may
It
do.
will drop, and I think they should be okay with the drops too.
Absolutely.
That it doesn't
Yes.
always go perfectly,
Yeah.
and you're trying to do a lot of things, and some of those things you'll do well, some of the things you won't, and that's perfectly okay, because at the end of the day, you learn and grow as a person.
Yeah.
As much from the drops as you do from the successful catches.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
also, Kavita, on the way in the morning, so I was discussing this with my team. I have 2 young girls in my team, and just married. One has a child who's 5-6 years old. For them, sometimes you are that role model,
Yeah.
and it's really tough when you see them because they come from traditional families,
Yeah.
and there's so much still. There is so much pressure on the girls
Yes.
to say, okay, the moment you get married, you have to quit your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and then you have to
Indeed.
quit your job, and then you have to make so much food
Yeah.
because 15 people will come, and in a marriage when they're meeting each other for the first time,
Yeah.
the kind of questions that still get asked are, can you make food for 15 people in 15 minutes? Imagine that's the kind of questions we have to answer still. I may choose or may not choose to cook, but
Yeah.
it can give me at least the freedom to choose.
Yes.
Absolutely. It may be my mojo to cook for 15 people in 15
Yeah.
minutes, and that's absolutely all right. But I get to decide what that is.
I just need the freedom to choose.
Yes.
Kamolika,
Yes.
we've been talking all work,
Yes.
work, tech, mommyhood, parenting, all of it. But I seem to know another side of yours, which is, we have this Women from IIM network where Kamolika comes up with the right answers to all the history quizzes. Yeah, there are a bunch of history nerds there. There'll be some obscure statue or picture from somewhere, and Kamolika would have DM'd that person and answered the question already.
Oh my God.
So, tech is futuristic, and then there is the whole history bit.
Yeah.
So, what do you do for fun? Where do you draw your peace and energy
Yeah.
from?
Oh yeah, but actually to answer that question, I'm an absolute history buff. So again, when you put it next to, working with advanced technology.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the extreme.
Look at the range.
yes, it is quite a range, but it just interests me, and I think to answer your question, I think to balance out all of the stress and all of the workload that we take, right, in our day jobs, it's so important to have that time together, as a family, as a couple,
Yeah.
with your husband. And I think that's something that over a period of time we've realized that we don't want to compromise on, right? So whether it is having dinner together at the end of the day as a family, just having a dinner table conversation about how our days have gone, to making sure that we celebrate all the festivals, right? And right from Holi to Diwali to Durga Puja, Christmas, all of them. Nothing goes by in our household without a huge celebration. And then making time for travel, traveling to places with a lot of history, a lot of culture, beautiful outdoors. We just enjoy that. And if we don't have that, then we know that, the life goes out of balance, right? And that you need that to sustain you on the days when the pressure is high, on the days when there's a lot of workload, there's a lot of crazy meetings happening. You need, those shared moments to sustain you through those high pressure situations.
Walk us through what made you build this career, because it looks very intentional to me. This is not happenstance.
Yeah, it might look that way, but it actually grew very organically, right? And it was a result of choices that I made, of course, but there wasn't any great master plan or I want to do this. It just so happened that I liked certain directions, and I probably made choices moving towards those directions, and they then in turn open out other vistas and other choices and other perspectives. So like I was telling you earlier, Kavita, I liked to go into areas where I don't have perfect knowledge, right, but which looks fascinating to me, and where I know that I may not be fully qualified for this job right now, right? I may not know everything that there is to know, but I know that I will put in the hard work required to learn and to adapt myself and make sure that I am able to do that job as well as I can, right? So I think for me, taking the option that makes you slightly uncomfortable, it gives you a little bit of butterflies in your stomach. Oh my God, will I be able to do it? But doing it because you see something fascinating that you can do, build a business, hire a new team, launch a new product, and those are all things that have always excited me. And so taking the uncomfortable option is probably the first principle that I think is, that I abide by. Second one, again, I think we talked about it briefly earlier, is working at the edge of innovation. Always work where there's innovation happening, there's new things happening, disruptions happening in your industry. Because working in a space like that can teach you more in a month than you would learn in a year of working in a very steady state organization, right? And the third thing was that, whenever we had this, work-life issues coming up or career decisions and family decisions to be made, is to really go that extra mile and make sure that, we weren't giving up, right? And we talked about this as well earlier. As women, I think we need to really value the work that we have done and the track record that we have. So many women, and I think you mentioned this earlier, Anjali, when they talk about their work experience, they come across as apologetic, It's just something that I did on the side. Oh, I just did this because I was put into that role, or somebody gave me this opportunity. No, this happened.
I went out there, did and made it happen.
Right. And you never hear that. And for women to own this and say, hey, I've worked so hard and I've got myself this far, and I'm going to take one more step just to see where this can take. I think you'll
always have to stretch your limits, right?
Yeah.
If we're happy in that comfort zone, okay, I know exactly how my day is going to be, how my next 3 years is going to be. We can't live our lives on an Excel sheet, right? To say, this is my grand plan and this is how things have to fit. So my child will be so many years and this is how it will be. Sometimes curveballs happen.
The comfort zone is where careers go to die.
Exactly, and that also, I think, Kamalika, correct me if I'm wrong, not everybody is like you, right? Like you moved to Thailand, you moved to Turkey, you're putting your career ahead, but you also had 2 young kids. And there was a point of time when you didn't move, only Prashant moved. And you put your career ahead. I mean, single parenting is not easy either, right? And for kids who are going through their board exams or whatever, but you somehow thought, I'm going to make all of this work and find a solution. But the challenge that generally happens is, okay, maybe my job should be steady and shouldn't worry me too much because there's so much other variability in my life, right? And I guess that's one of the things we're also trying to break with this podcast in our own small way, which is why we have inspiring people like you who can come and tell these relatable stories. What is one advice you have for our listeners? You've said a lot of things. I have a lot of advice for myself. go for innovation, look for things that will happen in the future and think about them right
Yeah.
now. Have a pyramid. I mean, like, what a fantastic idea, right? It's something that I'm gonna kind of incorporate. But what is that one advice you'll give to people who are listening to the show? That's
Yeah.
really important to have a mindful career.
I think the biggest advice that was shared with me, and I'd love to share it, is embrace your stumbles as well as your strides. Because when you look at somebody's career and you're trying to learn from it, right? It looks like a string of glorious successes.
Yeah.
The reality is far from the truth.
Oh yes.
Everybody has those those stints or those projects or those responsibilities that don't go don't go as well as you thought they would,
Yeah.
and where you may not have an outcome that you anticipated, right? And it can be disappointing, but it's really, really important to learn from that experience, to get up, brush yourself off, and move on to your next adventure, because the stumbles teach you as much as the strides, and it's only when you own both of them that you actually grow into a full-fledged leader, right? And I think that's really important.
Absolutely. So
Perfect.
well said.
And the resilience it teaches you, right?
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
that is really the lesson life teaches us.
Yes.
Indeed.
Indeed.
And it's not going to be all a glorious ride, not a bed of roses, but it's when you fall, how do you get up and say, okay, I have to show up tomorrow.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that's also because a lot of that we learn from sport. I have a son who plays cricket, so it's an everyday part for us. The days when the centuries get made are the perfect ones, right? And that's no problem at all. But the days when you get out on zero, I think those are also our toughest days. And
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
them, learning it pretty early, but in a 35-year career, you will have many of those.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
right.
will.
And how do you get up and say, okay, I still need to show up because
Yeah.
I'm responsible for my team, my work, the numbers that I'm driving, all the businesses that
Absolutely.
I'm leading today. But it's about owning the mistake also sometimes, to say
Yes.
that, when the flag comes, it comes first to the leader.
Yes.
But owning it up and saying, okay, what's next?
Also,
Absolutely.
I'm responsible for my own career, right?
Yeah,
No one else
yeah.
is going to be responsible for that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And to expect that I will always have, like I said, a string of glorious successes is utopian.
that's
It doesn't
utopian,
happen.
yes, yeah.
So you are mentally prepared for things to go sideways. When
Yeah.
they do, you know that you just have to get out of this. It's just another challenge in your path, and you really need to bring your best effort to break out of this. It should not have a permanent mindset effect on you, but to break out of this and say, this has made me stronger. And I think that's important.
So, you've been leading businesses doing profit loss for so many, but I think
Right.
in our personal profit loss accounts, the profits have to be more than the losses, then it's a win-win. Right? So,
Indeed.
every
indeed.
step you take, every action you make in your career, life,
Yeah.
etc., in the end, that profit loss statement has to look
There's
good.
a plus and a minus.
Has to be
Yes,
green.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it has to be green. Absolutely.
Well said.
So, Kamolika, that brings us to the end of our main segment today.
Right.
But, we want to put you on the driver's seat, which you
Ooh.
are in general. But metaphorically for the show,
Right.
that's a set of rapid fire questions.
Oh, okay.
So the first on that is a myth about women in tech that you would love to quash.
That women can't do sales. Nothing is further from the truth. I think some of my best sales people and sales leaders have been women.
Wow, that's so encouraging. Next one, what's one really tough decision you took in your career?
So actually it was a decision to come back to India, because
Hmm.
by that time, we'd been abroad for 7 to 8 years. Both my husband and I, we had, great prospects in front of us. But we took a decision to come back to India consciously, because we wanted our kids to grow up in the country that they were citizens of. We didn't want them growing up being a stranger to the country that they belong to. We want them to learn the language, to understand what it is to be an Indian.
Yeah.
And that's what led to a decision to come back.
Wow. What's one career move you made that changed everything for you?
I think that was probably joining Google, right? It was, of course, joining Google in general, but also the job that we were entrusted with, which is to grow the Google Cloud business, right? The cloud business was very small when I joined. I think we had a team of about 10 to 15 people. and we were up against the biggies in the market. We were competing against AWS and Microsoft, and within Google, the cloud business was really small, and people didn't really know quite what we did, right? So it was a question of,
Ask
work.
anyone today.
Right, back in those days, right? And it is a question of really building that internal collaboration, because we worked a lot with the different businesses of Google, but also, of course, showing up strongly in the market to compete, to show up like we were a huge gorilla in the room when we were actually the rookies, right? So that was what made the stint interesting.
Wow. Okay, what's your biggest leadership strength?
I think it's the power of authenticity.
Wow.
I think, as a leader in any interaction, if I can be real, if I can be authentic, and I can speak from the heart, I think that automatically builds a connection to the person or persons who's listening to me, and that then creates the foundation for, great collaboration, right?
Yeah.
So I like to think of that as my superpower.
Indeed, whatever I know of you, I think that's true. What is one work in progress?
I think I'm very impatient, right? And I think partly it comes from, being in very fast growing businesses where you're always impatient for outcomes.
There's just so much more to do.
There is, right? And there are only so many hours in the day, right? So that
yeah.
makes you impatient. But I think as a leader, over a period of time, I've learned that, at the end of the day, you have to give your teams the leeway.
You have to breathe. You have
Yeah,
to breathe
absolutely.
And let others
Yes,
breathe.
yes.
Yeah.
And empower them and let them do it as they see fit. While of course you work for the same outcome, right? So I think that's still a work in progress for me, I think.
What's one skill every woman should have, you feel, no matter what industry it is?
To be in a position to have an elevator pitch with the CEO of your organization, right? And I say this very mindfully because, talking to top management, sometimes, people shy away from it because they're like, oh, it's going to be such a tense interaction. What do I say? How do I come across, right? And typically the interactions with top management are short windows, right? You only have a very small amount of time to say your piece, to make your impression and get your points across. How do you do it in a short period of time to really, accomplish everything that you want to in that short window that you have is really, really important. I think it's a skill worth learning, not only for women, but for men also, because a busy executive, their mind works very, very differently from someone who has the time to listen to what you have to say, right? And to be able to make an impact in a short period of time can be actually career defining for you.
Amazing, Kamolika. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful session.
So Kavita, let's work on our elevator pitch.
Absolutely, I think we should. I tried it on Kamolika already.
Oh.
I met her 4 months back and I said, Kamolika, podcast.
That's it.
It was a one-word elevator speech, which absolutely worked.
Which absolutely worked. But it was fantastic having you with us, Kamolika.
No, thank you.
I'm still to make up my mind on whether it was a main segment or the rapid fire round, which is my favorite.
No, but
it
thank you
was
so much
super.
for having me.
So many ideas and takeaways for us, right?
Yeah.
The pyramid, the stumbling, the owning your career, etc., etc. Just so much for us to
very
mull on.
actionable insights,
Yes,
right?
yes,
It's
yes,
not
yes.
just something that you cannot really follow. It's so actionable, and that's a mark of a true leader. Actually, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kamolika, for doing this for us.
Can I just say that you guys are absolutely amazing for this format of podcast that you guys have created. I think it just really shows, going beyond the boundaries of tried and tested. And I really, really look forward to
Driving
seeing.
and in Mumbai traffic.
Yes, in Mumbai traffic, right? That's multitasking right there for you. And I'm really excited to see where you guys take this next.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much.
All the best.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of People Connects Women at Work, brought to you in partnership with our luxury partner, Mercedes-Benz Landmark Cars, and our styling partners, Veramoda.
If you liked what you heard and saw, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whichever audio platform you prefer. Thank you.